Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskiy has signed into law a measure lowering the country's army mobilisation's age from 27 to 25. Mobilisation is a divisive issue in the nation, really exhausted by more than 2 years of war. But the move comes as Ukraine continues to lack soldiers to battle the Russian invasion. Let's hear from our correspondent Gulliver Cragg in Ukraine.
The law to reduce the mobilisation age from 27 to 25 was actually passed by the Ukrainian parliament in May 2023, but Volodymyr Zelenskiy refused to sign it at the time, perhaps knowing that it would be unpopular, also perhaps thinking about Ukraine's demographics. The country is unwilling really to send young men to the front in very large numbers before they've had a chance to have children, because there was already a demographic crisis in Ukraine before the full-scale invasion, and the war has only made things much, much worse. But now the situation has changed, and pressure was mounting on the Ukrainian president for some time now to sign this law and also other measures that would allow the country to recruit more men into the army, because the army is making it very clear that it needs tens of thousands more people. Those who have been fighting for 2 years are very tired. They need to be rotated. The army has suffered major losses as well, of course, and Ukraine understands now that this is going to be a long, hard struggle, that there isn't going to be any quick victory with quick reconquest of territory as people were still hoping back in May 2023. But Ukrainian public opinion is full of contradictions actually when it comes to mobilization. People are generally in favor, in theory, of the idea that the army needs to mobilize more people. But there are all sorts of criticisms of the way that it's being done. And there's also, according to a recent poll, some 53% of Ukrainians who say that they fully understand men who dodge the draft. And a lot of men do. They pay bribes, they try to leave the country illegally, various ways to try to avoid being sent to the front line. And it's not hard to understand their fear, especially when American military aid is in doubt, when the country is short of munitions, and when the Russians have the initiative and are pushing forward, albeit only quite slowly. And so this is all a very big headache for the Ukrainian authorities, really, all the more so because according to recent polls, the idea of negotiating with Russia for a ceasefire is actually gaining in popularity, more than 30% at the national level and almost 50% in areas closer to the front line. But the problem is that Russia is proposing no such thing. Russia is not proposing just a ceasefire or freezing the conflict, the front line where it is now. They want more Ukrainian territory, and they want concessions from Ukraine in terms of not joining NATO and other geopolitical policies. And these are all things that the Ukrainian public is absolutely not prepared to accept, even if they would, in theory, like the idea of a ceasefire and for the fighting and the dying to just stop.